Hello everyone, and welcome back to our Introduction to Python tutorial series. In the last tutorial, we learned how to use user input and how to debug our code. Today, we are going to learn about conditional statements and while loops. This tutorial connects to General Curriculum Outcome 1, specifically SCOs 26 and 27, where we are going to write code using loops and conditional statements. Let's jump into our Google Colab and we will begin with conditional statements. A conditional statement allows a program to run or not based on whether or not a certain condition is true. So there are three components you can have in a conditional statement: if, elif, and else. The if statement is always checked first, and if that holds true, then the block of code with that if statement will run. Elif stands for else if. This checks another condition if the first one is false, and you can have as many elif statements as you'd like. And then else is an optional statement that goes at the very end, and that runs if everything else above it is false. So let's look at an example. We're going to create a variable called age. Now, here's another thing we're going to talk about. Since we want our age to just be a whole number with no decimal points, we're going to put int, which stands for integer. So this makes whatever number the user inputs a whole number with no decimal points. If you want it to have decimal points, you could type float, and that will allow decimal points. For our case, we want integers, so we're going to go int, and then we're going to do input. How old How old are you? And now we will do an if statement. So let's say if age is greater than or equal to 18. Notice we put a colon, and when we enter, it automatically indents. So we're going to put print, you are an adult. And now we want to make sure our else is not indented and in line with the if. So we're going to go else, print, you are not adult. So now if we run this, how old are you? If we put a number that is less than 18, it's going to say you are not an adult. And now if we put a number that is bigger than 18, you are an adult. And similarly, if we put 18, it will say you are an adult because we have a greater than or equal to. So now let's modify this a little bit, and we can add an elif statement. So we could do if age equals 18. In Python, if you want to check if something is equal to, you have to use two equal signs. So we will go if age equals 18, and we will print you are 18. Now, since we have a greater than or equal to sign here, we're going to get rid of the equals here. So now the elif should run if we type 18. So let's try the three possibilities. We put a number larger than 18, you are an adult. If we put 18, you are 18. And if we put a number less than 18, it says you are not an adult. So now let's look at a while loop. A while loop is a block of code that is going to repeat as long as a certain condition holds true. So instead of writing the same bit of code over and over again, we can use a loop to make that code repeat automatically. So here's an example. I will make a variable called loops. We'll start it at 0. And so while loops is less than or equal to 3, we are going to print the loop has been performed, comma, loops, comma, times. And then we're going to make the loops counter increase by 1 every loop. So we'll do loops equals loops plus 1. So that'll increase the counter every time. So now when we run this, we can see it says the loop has been performed 0, 1, 2, 3 times. In Python, the counter always starts at 0, so that's why it's printed there 4 times for 0, 1, 2, 3. So yeah, you can play around with while loops. They are very useful, so you don't have to continuously repeat and type code multiple times. So yeah, today we learned about conditional statements and while loops, and these are two very important concepts that you will use in your programming. In the next tutorial, we will put everything together to create a small Python program. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.